the average household, time together is spent at home, in shopping malls, and at favorite restaurants. For this family, though, the arrival and departure halls of Changi Airport make for their most familiar meeting ground. The check-ins, the slow walks to the departure gate, and the painful goodbyes are now par for the course for Dr. John Paul Lee and his family. He hadn't planned for it to be this way, but Dr. Lee soon realized that his marriage to Colleen Leslar in 1978 was going to change his life in ways he had never imagined. He's probably better known for the thousands of animals he's brought into the world, but this renowned veterinarian is also the proud father of 2 daughters. Not that he can tell the difference these days.
I see them in the same position. Animals and kids, they're the same. So therefore, no difference.
What? Jokes aside, Olivia, Leanne and their little brother Daniel grew up in a rather unconventional home. Likened to a typical Italian family, there were always gregarious dinner conversations, yelling, screaming, loud laughter and insults that flew fast and furious.
In the Lee household, we all have to be right. That's a part of the problem. And, but it makes for great dinner conversation and arguments, which is probably every dinner. We have some kind of an argument about something.
My father was always, he's a very extreme man. He's here and he's there and he's also in the middle. Like, he'll be the one to discipline and to yell and to shout, but he would also be the first person to say, I'm sorry. If we had a fight, he'd come up all teary, I'm sorry, he'd be like that too. When you're young and your dad's vivacious and outlandish, it's great, it's cool. I was quite close to him when I was growing up. He was always my idol. I always wanted to be like him. And unfortunately, I think I actually did become like him.
He's kind of like Dad who would spend like money on clothes and makeup and hair and whatever on you. Yeah.
I was the first child, so I wasn't allowed makeup. I wasn't allowed to have the funky clothes. When everyone else had Doc Marts, I did not. I had to buy these 1995 pairs somewhere that look kind of like Doc Marts.
Dr. Lee married in the late 70s. Without children yet, he and his wife threw themselves into his vet practice and also spent many a weekend as family counselors, helping couples deal with personal problems and parents deal with their children. So when baby Olivia came along, they thought their experience as counselors was going to put them in good stead.
As a counselor, I could tell people what to do, how to solve problems. We're involved in therapy, family therapy, problem solving. But when it comes to your own, suddenly, all the things that you know and learn goes out the window. It's really strange, And I see that happen with my friends, I see that happen with other psychologists, I see that happen with psychiatrists, and I'm going, why? Why does it work for others and not yourself? And it's because with your own, you have higher expectations. So you have less patience. Your views are highly colored when it comes to your own. I had no idea what it was like to be a parent. I mean, we were young. I was 26, 27 when I had Olivia. It was my first child. I had no idea what it was like. And I had no idea I had a baby that was like this. And she was pretty stubborn when she was young. There are 2 types of kids. One type that will learn from the mistakes of their parents. Another one have to make the mistakes themselves before they learn, Olivia's one of them.
Is that the one we've been to before?
This was now a coping father, and he dealt with Olivia the best way he knew how. Discipline, discipline, and more discipline, be it at the dining table or on his idea of a wonderful family holiday.
They used to run rings around Mum's fingers, and Mum did everything for them, and Dad was the one that saw through them, got to make sure they did the work before we went out, make sure they ate all the vegetables off the dishes, things like that, Dad was always the bad person.
For him, traveling means getting in a boat, going out to sea and fishing. It's waking up 5 a.m. in the morning. It's about sitting around, picking up yabbies with your bare hands. It's about hooking them up and then waiting. And then doing more waiting. And then it's about doing more waiting. And he's having a ball. He's just absolutely enjoying himself.
Well, I think the best way to learn patience is sitting on the boat, especially you're not allowed to talk. No music, nothing.
I just like to say that he's only patient on a boat. Outside of a boat, he's as impatient as all of us.
But despite the strict regimen, Dr. Lee loves his children and he loves them fiercely. They have always come first and never once had to compete with his work for attention.
He always took me out for movies when I was a kid. So I always went for movies with him and my mom. Always took us out for dinner. I wouldn't say that my dad wasn't one of those dads who, wasn't around when I was growing up. No, nothing like that. At my 21st birthday, he did this. He's very good at doing these slideshows, PowerPoint, and he did this presentation on me growing up and all the rest of it. And on one of the slides, it was my when I was born and all the rest of it. He got not only the date wrong, but he got the month wrong.
So embarrassing. It's a whole crowd.
But no. Look, that's not. No, Dad, you got the year right, so that's okay. All right. You got the year right.
Can't centralize slaughtering of poultry.
Olivia was entering teenagehood, which itself is actually teenagehood is a very difficult period. I would never ever want to be a teenager, It is actually a difficult period because it's hormonal, it's psychological, it's everything. It is a very tough time, And they need both parents to be there.
Olivia was coming into her own, ready to take on the world with her wild antics and strong opinions. But 13, just at the onset of the most vibrant time of her life, her colorful world caved, and it caved from within.
Mom picked me up from school one day, and then she drove past a doctor's surgery, and she parked the car and she said to me she just needed to get some results and she'd be back. So when she came back into the car, I just went, oh, what was that about? And she didn't want to tell me, but then I managed to glimpse in the papers in her hand something to do with breast. And that's when that was my first inkling.
When my wife was discovered as having stage 3B breast cancer, I left my kids to the care of my brother and sister-in-law, and spent a lot of time with my wife, trying to get help, spending just time with her, knowing that time was so short, cramming in all the things that we didn't do before. Well, I told Olivia that Mom's going to be all right. In fact, told all my kids Mom was going to be all right because I sincerely believed that.
And I believed him, He has this way of commanding people's attention and then getting them to trust in him, right? And he said to me, that she was going to be okay, that she would be all right. And I believed him. I didn't lose that belief till her heart stopped beating. I remember I was in the stairwell of the hospital, and I was just crying and crying. I was screaming my lungs out, and I was bargaining with God, and I was doing all the rest of it. Came out, and then, anyway, she passed away, and I crawled into bed with her, and I I remember thinking to myself, all I have to do is project myself 5 years into the future and this will just be a memory. And that's how I got through it.
Still, this day had a dreadful effect on Olivia. Her world collapsed as she said goodbye to her mother and her best friend.
Olivia fell apart. She was very angry. Probably angry with me, angry at the situation, angry at God, angry at her mother for leaving her because Colleen promised her that she'll be there when she graduated. And I also, Leanne cried twice that I can think of, and I never saw her cry again. Daniel never cried at all. He just kept very quiet. I think at 4, I don't think he quite understood, but for the 4 days of the wake, over the open coffin, he would stand there and just stare at her face. So in his little mind, something is working in there.
It was just a really sad time. I really hated that period so much. And normally when kids are that young, you don't understand death, but I knew that I saw my mom's coffin and everything. I knew that I'll never see her again. And it really hurt when I thought that, and yeah.
But of all those involved in this brutal reality, it was Dr. John Paul Lee himself who was having the most difficulty dealing with the loss.
I was very angry. I was angry with myself. I guess I was angry with my wife. No one wanted to hear my pain. I couldn't talk to anybody about what I was going through. I was always told to be brave for the children, stiff upper lip, don't feel so sad, you know, she's in safe hands. You know, the usual jargon that goes on following a funeral. And I had to find some way of expressing myself to let out my grief. And I had to go away. I had to go away. Because I knew that unless I get myself sorted out, I had nothing to give my children, you know. I was empty. I was operating on empty. My tank was 0.
He was having difficulties dealing with it. I was having difficulties dealing with it, and we took it out on each other. Maybe he was relying on me too much for support, and then I wasn't reciprocating, and I didn't really want the support from him. I wanted it from my friends instead, my boyfriend, my best friend or whatever. And then it just, you know how things just sort of snowball? It snowballed, and it was so rough.
Both of us were going through some terrible times ourselves. I remember arguing over very silly things. I remember the arguments got bitter. I mean, in the past, we'd argue, we'd come together, and we'd talk again and all that. But these arguments we had were serious. They were very bitter arguments and blaming. And you asked me how worse can it get? It got to the stage where we were just pushing each other away.
Different families handle tragedies differently. Most band together in times of loss. But the family ties at the Lees were tested to their limit, and both father and daughter opted to go their separate ways. Olivia took a one-way ticket to Sydney while her father remained in Singapore, and communication between them ceased.
We were already living apart, but she would not call me for months at a time. And I would be worrying there, lying in the night, not knowing what to say to her. And when I do finally get her on the phone, it's another argument. It's like nothing I said could make things right. And I guess vice versa, nothing she did could make me feel all right, you know. And that was a tough time after Colleen died. We both fell apart. And unfortunately, at that time, we didn't see it, you know.
It's been 6 years since her mum's passing, and Olivia is back in Singapore to see her father. Her sister Leanne has also gone to Australia to stay in boarding school.
Very tired.
Yeah.
We fight a lot less. I think when you see each other every day, you tend to have a lot more expectations. I think we tend to be more patient when you see them now and again, you know. And it's like a rekindle of the relationship again. You know, it's exciting to see your daughter, even seen her for a couple of months. I enjoy that. I mean, which is good for us as well. Our relationship is a lot better these days.
Yeah.
Yes. This one here. That was Daniel.
Ironically, it was distance that brought them closer. Olivia has brought her boyfriend Frank down for this family reunion, and with it, allowed Dad back into her life again.
I did try and fill that void, and as I said, it's not difficult. It's difficult because I've never been in that role before as a mother, and trying to wear two hats it's very tough. But I'm glad I spent that time with Olivia now, because now we share the same jokes, we laugh again, she can share things with me. I'm her punching bag sometimes, you know. I mean, we argue still, we disagree on many things. But the beautiful thing is I have discovered a whole new wonderful relationship with Olivia, one that I envied from a distance when I saw her with my wife.
And with the help of his children, Dr. Lee has managed to move on too. In 1998, he married his friend of 35 years, Ro Murphy.
Olivia told me one day, "Dad, I know what you're going through. I wouldn't blame you if you got married again." So when I got married, Olivia was there for me. She was there doing out my car, just married car. You know, I mean, she was great. She was great. She gave me the I was very concerned about what the kids feel. And because she gave me her blessings, and I saw how wonderfully this woman treated my kids, I went into that marriage.
Before he did anything, like, you know, if he wanted to marry her, he would always ask me and Darren what we thought of her. So we came in first, like before what he needed. But at that time, I guess I was too young to think, you know, he really tried, because everything just went really fast for me. So I really didn't understand what's going on, but I knew something bad was happening, and I knew that my mom was sick. So when he actually, you know, when she died, and he started going out looking for someone for us, he was looking for someone for us, you know. So he always used to ask, "Do you like her? You know, what do you think?" Just you know, "I like her, I'll marry her." He always put us first.
I knew, because I was there from the very beginning, how he felt about my mother and how hard he tried to save her and how devastated he was when she died. How can you fault someone like that? Really, how can you fault someone like that? And then all I could think about was how lonely he was going to be and how he didn't deserve that. And when he found someone, good for him. I supported him through the entire thing. I did not blink an eye. None of this, "Oh, you know, what about my inheritance?" I mean, my dad's always been a generous man. That didn't even come into it. And besides, she's a great woman. She's a really lovely lady.
The episode of Bad Times is but a memory today. Olivia has turned into a mature, compassionate and loving daughter. Dr. Lee, on the other hand, has become a different father altogether.
Dad has always been a cool dad. Now, for different reasons than before. When I was growing up, he was a cool dad because he was smart, funny, charming, intelligent, witty, and adventurous. Now he's cool because he's going through some sort of midlife crisis and he wants this fast car, tattoos, and all the rest of it. She's got a completely different upbringing than me. We've got the same father, but don't forget the father he's different. Right? From when I was growing up to what she has right now. Her father is a, you know, more, "Woohoo, let's go out, woohoo, you know, let's go get a car, you know." Whereas in my day, it's, "Let's go to church, and don't you say anything about it."
Oh, okay.
Dr. Lee is now the laid-back father every teenager would dream of having. After all, how many dads out there would volunteer to pierce their daughter's belly button?
I really want to get my belly button pierced, blah, blah, blah. And then and he's got this thing about everything's got to be sterile. You know, you cannot trust anyone, AIDS, blah, blah, blah. And then so finally he turned around and he went, okay, if you want your belly button pierced, I'll do it. So I think it was a 14 gauge needle, anesthetic, antiseptic swabs, and we were in the toilet. And I was sitting on the toilet seat, and he injected the anesthetic in it, and he put the needle through. And I looked down and I went, Daddy, I don't feel very bam, I was out like a light. The next thing I knew, I was on the floor and he's standing over me. He goes, if you want this belly button piercing, you gotta start acting like a grown-up. Now, stop being silly, get up.
One member of this family left to enter another world, but those who remained in this one struggled through the painful void, watching things crumble and their family unit torn apart. Time and space was what this family needed to get them through their rough patch. The result is a relationship stronger, more in tune, and more appreciative of their new bond. Father and daughter, though worlds apart, have come together to continue the legacy of love and hope.
I miss them so much, you know. I really do. I mean, I put a brave front all the time, but I so miss them. I miss their voices in the house, they're running around, and even the arguments we have. I really miss them. I sit at the dinner table now, and it's all quiet, you know. And all I hear is the clinking of cutlery. You know? I really miss that. I miss them, and I love them so much, you know. And I really wish the best for them.
Although we have had many times rough and like good times, he was always there, and he's always loved me and always told me he loved me, and he's always been really caring.
I don't think he realizes how much I love him. I love him so much that I cannot be around him if I believe he's upset, because I can't see him like that. And sometimes I may be a bit rough on him, but I do it because I love him. And this is my father talking, because he would say, I do it because I love you. But it's true. And I think that I wanted to say, for it to be forever immortalized on VCD, that I love my father.
ChannelNewsAsia